All right, welcome back. Well, the holidays are supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year, but we know that's not always the case, especially if you're missing a loved one. It's normal to experience grief during the holidays. And Michelle Eckley, the full owner of Feedback and Counseling and Who joins us now with more on this topic and some steps and tips to walk us through how to handle grief in the holidays. Thanks for being with us, Michelle.
Thanks for having me, Claire.
So, talk about maybe just sort of a statement about how this is actually normal. Some people might feel isolated and alone with
Yeah.
this, but it's unfortunately pretty common and pretty normal, right?
Well, we all have, as long as we're in this world, right, we're going to have times where we experience grief, where we lose people that we care deeply about. And the holidays tend to be a time when families get together. And so they're often a time where we feel that loss a little more heavily than we might at other seasons, right? Those are the times where we have all of these things that we're used to doing together, and the lack of having that person in that experience feels a little more pronounced. So, especially in the first holidays after you have lost somebody you care for, that can feel really hard to have their presence not be there with you.
Absolutely. You've got some tips, and I want to show our viewers these tips. Sort of, let's walk through these. The first one you say to recognize it's normal, and I think that we're just sort of touching.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that's hard about those feelings is we feel like we should move on. There's kind of this idea that we should be okay, we should move on. And maybe not everybody has that, but there's at least a little bit of that going around. And it is really normal to experience that loss. And it's really normal for it to be true years down the road, right? When that was something that you celebrated with that person, when that is a moment where you remember that person, it's really normal to have that feeling like they are not there is strange or is painful or that you miss them.
Absolutely. Our next one is to talking about tradition, new or old, maybe starting new traditions or doing the
Yes.
old ones, even without them, right?
Yeah, that's the idea of that, right? That when somebody is not there, there are a number of ways you can sort of address that. You can remember, you can do all of these different things, and traditions are a really good way to remember your experiences with another person. Doing the traditions of the past, or maybe passing those on in your family, experiencing them with other people, or creating a new tradition, right? If that person isn't there, maybe taking a part of that old tradition and creating something new and unique, that is a new version of it, a new normal.
Like that. The next one is storytelling. Tell us about this. Sort of explain it.
Do you know, storytelling is one of the really most wonderful ways. This is true in the holidays or any other time, but telling stories about the person or about your memories or, just remembering the stories of your life with this person. One of the most amazing things in grief is when you're able to remember and experience the joy of your memories with a person, right? This doesn't have to be telling other people. It can be sharing these stories with other people and with other people you love, but it can also just be maybe writing down a memory, maybe recording a memory for you to listen to later, or maybe watching a video of a memory, right? You can kind of tell the stories of the joyful moments. And those are really a wonderful thing to do, especially during the holidays where you probably have a few of those funny or maybe horrible ones that became funny. There are a lot of things that can happen, but storytelling can be a really wonderful way to remember a person and to walk in grief.
Love that. And that sort of leads us into our next one, memorializing that person.
Yeah, memorializing, unlike just remembering, is sort of doing something with that memory, right? It's a really common thing that we do in grief. Some people do it kind of without even thinking about it, but you can be intentional about it. Maybe you get an ornament every year to memorialize a person. Maybe you have a specific event or memory. Maybe you have a special meal that memorializes, and every year you'll do that meal. And it's differently than a tradition. You can do a specific thing, maybe with your family members or by yourself, to remember, right?
Mhm.
It's more than remembering, it's doing a thing to remember. A lot of people I know will create a box and put some of their favorite things in it, or maybe they'll make a pillow out of their dad's shirt or something like that, things that will memorialize the person.
I love that. And our last one there, shared experience. Sort of explain this to us.
One of the biggest things in grief is that it can feel really isolating, and we all grieve differently, including the people who are closest to us are going to grieve differently than we do. in maybe even the same experience, but those shared experiences, like being and doing things with other people who you care about, even if you don't care about them, being around other people is good. But if you do care about them, that sharing those experiences together, storytelling and memorializing and traditions really can be even more rich when you're sharing those with other people. And that grief, though it isn't going to be the exact same as somebody else's grief, is really much more rich, and you're able to process more effectively when you're in that with other people. It leaves you feeling shaken when you lose somebody, like the foundations are kind of shaken,
Yeah,
and to have other people around you in it can rebuild some of that.
I love that. Well, Michelle, we appreciate you joining us and sort of sharing those ideas. I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Claire.